So last night I had the pleasure of being one of the first people in the US to see Gundam GQuuuuuuX The Beginning, and I really liked it actually. I wasn't sure how I was going to enjoy it going into it. Everybody, is making kind of jokes about the name and all that kind of stuff, and the art style is very different from what we're used to in Gundam series. But I thought to myself, hey, when do you get a chance to go and see Gundam in a movie theater like this, in Imax? So I thought, why not go for it? And I'm so glad I did. First of all, it was great being in a big room filled with fellow Gundam fans. It was great hearing the conversations that were going on around me about about different Gundam series and things like that. The crowd reactions were a ton of fun. Everyone was cheering when Char showed up, cheering when the mobile suits activated and all that. It was neat. It was just a really, really fun experience. So, movie aside, just being in that room filled with all the fans was a ton of fun. But let's talk about the film itself and to a certain extent the show itself, because the film is kind of a mashup of apparently the first 3 episodes, I guess, of the show, 3 or 4 episodes. So I'll say right off the bat that I will not talk spoilers, and this is only talking about what we've seen in the trailer so far. So if you haven't watched the trailer at all, then, maybe you don't want to watch this. But if you have seen the trailer, we're not going to go into it any further than that. One element that I have to talk about in this is at the end of the trailer, there is this battle scream. When I was at Bandai Card Fest in January, they had the trailer on loop right behind the mini Gundam base they had there. So every maybe, I guess, 2 minutes, however long the trailer is, you would hear this sound. Yeah, you would hear that. So anywhere you were in the venue, you would be talking to someone, be like, yeah, man, I think blue white could be a good side for the multiple. And then when I was shopping in the Gundam base, I was like, oh, sweet, Gundam base exclusives. Let me look. I feel bad for anyone working the counter there at the mobile Gundam base, because that was literally playing every 2 to 4 minutes right behind them. So it's a cool trailer. I enjoy it, but man, that one sound, hearing it over and over and over again all weekend, left an impression. I will never forget that. So when that moment came up in the movie too, I was like, there it is. So the first very interesting thing about Gundam GQuuuuuuX, and that's the official pronunciation, it's in the movie, I'll say that, and so that's, now we know for sure it's GQuuuuuuX. But it's an alternate take on the Universal Century timeline. It's kind of a what if, right? If things had turned out differently in the 1 Year War, what might have happened afterwards? And I think that's such a great place to start, too, because I think it's safe to say that most people hold the Universal Century timeline in Gundam as kind of like the sacred timeline to a certain extent. That is the one that has the characters we love the most, the stories we love the most. And so being able to take that stuff and kind of turn it on its head a little bit is a really fun concept. And so the way they do that ends up being really neat and kind of unexpected. And I think more than anything, this movie did a great job of making me want to watch the series in full, which is kind of ultimately the objective of it, right? Story-wise, again, I think they did such a good job of flowing from the old into the new, if that makes sense. And it does move very quickly. The story moves really quickly in this, almost a little bit too quickly at times, but it flows very nicely. Everything has a logical progression to it. The way characters meet and interact and, move from one place to another. The way our main character acquires the Gundam GQuuuuuuX mobile suit all makes a lot of sense. And there's a great sort of overarching mystery that is sort of pervading everything, but yet we also have these smaller character-driven stories too. Let's talk about the art style. So one thing that I thought was really interesting that I felt like I noticed is it seemed like in the beginning, in sort of the part of the movie that sets up the current day stuff, we do revisit the 1 Year War era for a little bit at the beginning, and the art style is basically the art style from the OG Gundam series, which I really love, the old 1979, I think it is, Gundam series. And then there's a shift from that old art style to the new art style in a very logical place, right? And I thought that was really neat too. If there's anything about this movie that is a big takeaway, I think it's that there's a tremendous amount of respect for the original Gundam series in here, whether that comes from little references, little sound things they do, little music things they do, things with the characters' lines. There's obviously a ton of love and respect for the original Gundam series in this, and I think that makes it even easier to make the transition then from the old to the new, right? And I'll admit, I was a little bit off put by the art style that we saw in the trailer from the beginning, where we have the artist from Pokemon that does a lot of the human characters for Pokemon doing this. Very different from your average Gundam human drawings, right? But I gotta say, like, stylistically, as you get into it, it really does work, and it won me over. Same kind of goes for the mobile suit design, which comes from the individual behind the Evangelion mobile suits as well. And you can definitely see some of that DNA in the mobile suit design. The mobile suits are a little bit more lithe, they're a little bit more thin, agile. I think one of the fascinating things about this series is how divisive it's going to be on the art style front. I was walking out behind a couple people after the movie, and I heard one of the people say that he disliked the red Gundam to the point that he wanted to buy the mobile kit just to smash it. And I was like, bro, that is a strong reaction. But if you look at this thing, it is very different, right? I mean, especially when it comes to the face side of things. And my opinion, like I talked about, is that it did win me over. But it's going to be interesting to see the discussion around this. I think Gundam is one of those things where there is room for adaptation. There is room for sort of playing with the universe and playing with the art styles. And as long as it looks good, I'm okay with it. This is a show with a lot of style to it. This is like the streetwear of Gundam, if that makes sense, you know, where it's very modern, it's very cool, and it works. Again, it works. And we got to get to the music too. The music is just fantastic. It's just sort of very sort of subtle electronic stuff. It goes from being sort of very quiet to very punchy and loud. There's a lot of like techno elements to it too. So in the fight scenes, you get a lot of that. But again, that's all in the modern era stuff. In the old era stuff, we get all the great kind of Gundam classic jazzy sort of disco centric sort of sounds, which really works when you think about it, because where does techno come from? Where does EDM come from? Well, it comes from disco beats, right? In the 70s and the 80s. That's where what we know as EDM now originated, in my opinion, anyway. So I think there's a real connection musically between the old and the new in this too, which is very, very cool to hear. So yeah, just from top to bottom, everything is very well crafted. I mentioned already, I like the story. So I am impressed. You can hear kind of maybe you can hear a little bit of a surprise in my voice because, again, like I said, I was expecting it to be fun, you know, good, kind of mid, but whatever. It's a new Gundam series. That's cool. But I was genuinely impressed. I'm genuinely excited about where it's going to go. So I can't recommend it enough. If you have a chance, go out and get tickets and go see it because, again, it's just fun to see Gundam on the big screen. How often do we get that opportunity? So go do that. You don't really have anything to lose there. And then once the series comes out, I'm excited. And from the card game standpoint, I'm going off my green screen. Oh no. From the card game standpoint, I would say, you know, get excited for this stuff to come to the card game. I think it'll be fun to see. I think it'll make a lot of really neat looking cards too. And I'm also excited to build the model kits as well. I'll add that on there too, because we've already seen the high grade one for the Gundam GQuuuuuuX, and it's just so different again. I think it's going to be really fun to build and fun to have on the wall. So yeah, just a lot of excitement around this. I'm much more hyped about it than I expected I would be. So hopefully that hype is contagious and you go out and enjoy it too. Let me know too what you think of videos like this as well. Do you want to see me review more of the anime side of things on Gundam, or do you want to see me stick to the card game, to the model kits? I'm curious what your opinions are. So leave a comment with that. Let me know what you think of the movie if you've seen it already. And yeah, like and subscribe. All that stuff really helps the channel out. And thanks a lot for watching. We'll see you next time.